Hello, welcome to my best books of 2018 video. I'm really excited to be sharing this list with you. I at first was going to make it 10 books, but there were just too many books that I wanted to mention. So this list is really just the books I enjoyed the most, and there are 16 of them. So without any further ado, I'm going to get going because otherwise this video will be forever long. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is my favourite book of the entire year, and I haven't ordered any of the others, but this one was absolutely outstanding. As soon as I probably got to about halfway through, I thought, I think this is my favourite book of the year. And I read it in the middle of the year, so you know, it got some pretty good competition, but yeah, far and away it was the best, and that is Tests of the Road by Rachel Hartman. Now, if you normally watch this channel, you will have watched my video I did that was just devoted entirely to this book, a whole review, and you can go watch that if you want to know, you know, absolutely everything that I thought, every reason I have for loving this book. But to summarise, it's strange. So it's a sequel to her other books, Seraphina and Shadowscale, which is set in a world where there are dragons who can take on human form, and people who are half dragon, and the main character in Test of the Road, Tess, is the main character in the previous two books, half sister, and although you're sympathetic towards Seraphina, her actions have had some unintended consequences for Tess, and also Tess has always struggled with fitting into this world, and so she's got herself into trouble and been blamed for stuff that isn't her fault, and so she decides to run away, and she goes on this, it's not so much an adventure as a journey to come to terms with what she's been through, the trauma that she's endured, and it's just so beautifully written. It's got a very slow pace, but I just couldn't put it down. I adored it. The next book that's made it into this list is, of course, Seraphina. Now, I just was amazed by the world building that Rachel Hartman has put into this world. Absolutely incredible. The detail, the society, it set my imagination alight, and I loved it. So Seraphina is about a young woman who she works at the palace, the castle, for the queen. She's the music master's assistant, and she's hiding a secret that she's half dragon, and she has these weird sort of visions of her mother's memory, and she has these scales that she hides away, and she's doing a reasonable job of keeping this a secret until there's a plot that she uncovers, and she has all these suspicions, and basically she has to save the kingdom, or the queendom really. She has to save the queendom, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very different from Test of the Road, but I think a must read if you're going to read Test of the Road and you want the whole story, you know, the background, what's going on, and I really enjoyed it. I just love Rachel Hartman's writing. The follow-up to Seraphina, Shadowscale, which completes really Seraphina's story, or the main part of her story anyway, I didn't enjoy it as much, but as a pair of books, they are really fun, and I would recommend them. The next book I'm going to talk about is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Now, lots of people have read this book. I have met so many people who are like, I've just read the most amazing book, and I've been like, in the back of my head, is it Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine? And then I've gone, it's got a very strange name. It's Eleanor Oliphant is, and I'm completely fine. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like a lot of other people, it's about this woman, this young woman, who is kind of insisting that she's completely fine, but actually she's really lonely, and she's gone through some really terrible stuff that she's sort of repressed, and it's only through the power of friendship and community, that she comes to kind of understand who she is and who she can be and come to terms with it all, really. Yeah, books about trauma, really enjoyed this year. I didn't love it as much as I think some other people did. I found it quite hard to get into at the start. Like the first few chapters I found a bit difficult, but after that I was hooked and I loved it. The next book on my list I don't have to wave at you because I listened to it on audiobook, and that was Someday Maybe by Lauren Graham, who is the actress who played Lorelai in Gilmore Girls. I wasn't expecting to love this book as much as I did. You know, it's kind of what some people might call chick lit. It's about a young actress trying to make her way, and I don't know, something about it just really spoke to me. I just really liked it. I liked the fact that it was read by the author and her voice really suited the story. Yeah, I just really liked it. I think it's definitely one I would reread. Which I wasn't expecting to think that going into it, but like all the books on this list, would read again. The next books I have to mention are three by the same author: First Class Murder, Johnny Foul Play, and Mistletoe and Murder by Robin Stevens. I'm talking about all these books together because the reason I love one is the reason I love them all. They are just fabulous stories about two girls in their early teenage years having murder-solving adventures, basically. They're just reliably solid, fun, interesting books which deal with like serious social issues at the same time as grim murders. I think I've only guessed the ending of one of them so far, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the stories all are really coherent and make the endings make sense. And yeah, I can't wait to read more of these. The next book is the first of a couple of books where it's a sequel that I prefer to the first book in the series. So Unveiling Venus is the sequel to Following Ophelia by Sophia Bennett. You might remember if you follow me. You probably don't remember. Okay, I'm just going to assume you don't remember. So I think 2 years ago, one of my second favourite book of the year was Love Song by Sophia Bennett. So it's been a delight to read these books and see how she does historical fiction. And although I did really enjoy Following Ophelia, it didn't make it into my best books of the year list. However, I just loved this. I think sometimes a sequel is better than a first book because you're going back to a familiar character, but they kind of like grown past some of the more like basic coming of age elements that they might have faced in the first book, and now they're to the point where they can do some more interesting stuff and you can see their continued journey, and I really like that. Plus it was largely set in Venice and I love Venice, just loved it. It was one of probably my favourite place outside the UK that I've ever visited. It's just so beautiful and I loved getting to take a little trip back there inside my imagination thanks to this book. So this duology, sadly, unfortunately, YA art history is just not a popular enough genre for a third book to be in the works, although there's lots of setup in here that could easily lead into a third book. Or as I was saying, yes, these books are about a young woman called Mary who becomes a model for the Pre-Raphaelites, and she's also like an aspiring artist herself. And she has some misadventures because she's, she's of the lower classes, and she gets put into this world where she's mingling with the upper classes and all these artists and bohemian folk. And yeah, I just love following her adventure. I really wish that there will be a third book. So please, if you're watching this, please go buy these and read these and love these and tell everybody you know, because I want a third book desperately. The next book I'm going to talk about is Never Evers by Tom Allen and Lucy Iverson. I just had to double check then. It's like my mind just went blank, even though, on the average day I could have told you who the authors are off the top of my head. So this was a sequel to, or kind of not sequel, but the follow-up So this is the follow-up to their book Lobsters. Lobsters was aimed at a kind of older age group. This is aimed at kind of younger teens. And normally I'm not typically into books for younger teens. I find it kind of an awkward age. Like I like reading like proper middle grade, and I like reading like late YA, like older YA. I mean, the Murder Mystery and Ladylike mysteries are kind of an exception to my early teens rules in a lot of ways. I don't tend not to read it, but this is definitely for early teens, pre-teens. But I loved it so much. I keep thinking about how funny it was and how much I enjoyed it. It's about a group of kids really who go on a ski trip. There's some girls from girls' school. I think the girls from girls' school and boys from boys' school, and they meet on this trip, and just like hijinks ensue, and so many comedy moments. I loved it so much. I'm in awe of Tom and Lucy's ability to pull off a really funny, moving, heartwarming, hilarious story. It's just brilliant, and I can't wait to read more of their books. The next book on my list is quite a change of pace. It's The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. This came out a few years ago, and I won this edition in a competition, but because it's a hardback, I didn't get around to reading it, because it takes me forever to get around to reading hardbacks for all the usual reasons. And I'd heard that I think some of the characters come up in her new fairy series, and so I thought I should read this one first, and I really loved it. As usual, I just adore Holly Black's writing. She's one of my favourite authors. I love the way that she makes the relationships really moving, and she's not afraid to shy away from the dark aspects of fairy lore, and she also just puts in loads of really great descriptions of clothes. I love it. I love being able to picture the outfits that the characters are wearing. I don't tend to picture faces because I have face blindness, but I do like to picture outfits on characters, and I love that she puts those details in there. So yeah, this is about a brother and sister. Yeah, a brother and sister who have made separate kind of deals with the fairies, and now those deals, the bargains they've made are being kind of called in, and things are going very wrong in the town they live in, and yeah, there's a beautiful fairy prince who everyone wants to love. The next book is my second sequel that was better than the first book, in my opinion, and that is The Dark Days Pact by Alison Goodman. So I did really enjoy The Dark Days Club, which is about a young woman in Regency England who discovers that she is a demon slayer. But I felt it kind of took a while to get going. Like it was quite slow because the character had to make her mind up about whether she wanted to join this world of danger and excitement and brooding sexy earls. But in this book she's already done all that, so she can get on with the important bits, like going around Brighton and seeing lots of historical places and fighting demons and learning to disguise herself as a man and like going into a brothel and stuff. It's just so much fun. I really enjoyed it, and the tension between Lady Helen and Lord Carston. Oh yes, is he an earl? I think so. Yeah, he's an earl and the other dude's duke. Yeah, anyway, love triangle. But it's fun. I enjoy it, and I am looking forward to reading the third book, which I think is out now. I should really hurry up and buy it, shouldn't I? Next on my list is Embroideries, which is a really short, it's a really short graphic novel by the same author as Persepolis, and it's just really about a bunch of stories that women tell each other about their lives, about romance, sex, and I really, really enjoyed this. It's a very quick read, but very moving, and it made me think. A book that has made me think constantly since I read it is Educated by Tara Westover. This is another book that lots of people have been raving about, and I just completely agree with all the hype. It's a story unlike anything else I've ever read before, and God, it's just so brilliantly told. It's a masterpiece of kind of keeping to the point, being really concise, and just putting in the scenes that are the most moving. From the title, I did expect that this story of a woman who grows up with a Mormon survivalist family and who has never been to school but gets into university, mostly about her education, but actually it's more about her family life and the decisions she has to make in order to kind of leave them behind and pursue her career, and how she tries to balance it all. It was really, really moving. I keep thinking about it, and I would strongly recommend it. Next up, very different, The Last Namsara. This is another book about dragons, and again, a really, really interesting take on dragons, because dragons in this world really love stories, and the main character is a dragon hunter who lures dragons to her by telling them stories, even though this is forbidden. She's not meant to be luring them by telling stories, but there's an expectation that she'll still kill them, because she's this, she's supposed to be like the embodiment of a goddess, and this is kind of like the way she's paying for a crime she committed as a child several years ago, and it's just, it's got lots of political intrigue, mystery and magic and dragons. I raced through this book. It was one of the books I've read the quickest in the entire year. It's so well paced, and I do have the sequel to read, but I just haven't got around to it yet because I raced through it so fast. I don't think I necessarily took all the details in, so I want to reread the last few chapters just so I am going into the sequel with that in mind, really, with everything I need to know to really, really enjoy it and get the most out of it. The next book is The Worn Archive, which is my only non-fiction inclusion on this list. So The Worn Archive is a collection of pieces from a Canadian fashion journal called Worn. It's really, really colourful. It's got some great pictures. This was like my morning book. I used to read bits of this over breakfast, and it was just really, really inspirational. I loved hearing about all these different people and their relationship to clothes, and it's also got some articles about clothing history, and yeah, I really liked that it's mostly focused on the clothes that everyday people wear, because that's what I'm really interested in when I read books about clothes. I'm not really so into the story of great fashion designers. What I am interested in is, you know, how people make the decisions about what they're going to wear, how they see clothing as representing them, their own takes on fashion, that kind of thing. I'm really interested in that kind of nitty gritty of every day and what people choose to put on themselves. So yeah, it's just perfect for me. I really, really enjoyed it. The next book I really loved was The Rise and Fall of Becky Sharp by Sarah Manning. This is another one that I can't stop thinking about. So it's kind of a modern, it's a modern retelling of Vanity Fair, and I watched the ITV adaptation of Vanity Fair after reading this. I do intend to read the original book at some point, but I did read quite a lot of the Wikipedia article whilst watching the TV programme. One thing about having face blindness is that I really struggle sometimes with TV shows. I will conflate two actors in my head. I find it harder to remember actors' faces than people I see in real life. Like, somebody changing their hair can really, really throw me off, and there are a few characters that I did keep confusing. So I was, you know, following along with Wikipedia to make sure that I was on top of what was going on. But I do intend to read Vanity Fair so that I can compare it to The Rise and Fall of Becky Sharp, and yeah, because it really, really made me think. It was really, really fun, and the pacing was perfect, and Becky was just like the type of character that you kind of, you don't like her, you think she's a terrible person, you wouldn't want her in your life, but you're cheering for her regardless because all the people around her are kind of either a bit dim or really horrible in their own way. And I love how the little like political jabs that are in the book, I love how Sarah Manning transposed it onto the world as it is now, UK politics, and sort of the characters from the original story become like their equivalents now. And some of the characters, like slightly different things happen to them because obviously it's set now. So whereas there's a war going on during Vanity Fair that kills off some of the characters. I won't say who. There isn't a war to kill off some of the characters, so they have different destinies, and in order to be like modern equivalents, slightly different things happen to them. And it was just really, really, really interesting and so much fun. I love Sarah Manning's writing. She's another one of my favourite authors of all time. I just love the way that she describes people, and yeah, it was really, really great. I enjoyed it a lot. Number 15 on my list is actually a series rather than a single book, and that is Giant Days. I actually read the first trade paperback in this series a couple of years ago, but I finally got around to reading the rest this year, and I had so much fun. I'm completely hooked. It's a story about, it's basically focused around 3 young women at Sheffield University and the ups and downs of their academic careers, romance, how they're kind of adjusting to adult life, to being away from their families and making new friends, and all of that good coming of age stuff. I really, really am enjoying the series, and I am looking forward to reading more. The final book on this my favourite books read in 2019 list is Pure Juliet by Stella Gibbons. After reading this, I have been seized with a desire to read every single Stella Gibbons book going. So I expect to have read quite a few by the end of the year. I had one on my TBR already, and I am partway through it and really enjoying it. But yeah, this, I just loved it. It's really strange. It doesn't really have like an ending. It's a lost novel, and because Stella Gibbons didn't finish it off in her lifetime, maybe she would have done some more work on it. You know, it wasn't something that she agreed to have published. So yeah, the ending is a bit yeah, I'm not sure about it, but I just really, really love the characters and the way she writes. So it's about a young woman who runs away from home because she wants some peace and quiet, really. The school wants her to go to university, but her dad wants her to just go out and get a job, and she just wants to have some peace and quiet to think about this problem of coincidences in her mind, hence all the like mathematical symbols on the back cover. This is such a beautiful edition. It's lovely. She just wants to think, really. So she has somehow like got this she somehow got this old lady to agree to let her live with her and basically live off her so that she doesn't have to work for a year. This old woman has this fantasy that she's going to be her adopted daughter. But Juliet she just kind of like wants to be alone and think about stuff. And it really tells a story of how like Juliet finds a family without really realising it, and these funny, ridiculous characters who, and what they think of her and what they think of each other, and it's just the way she describes characters is just brilliant. She's a genius at describing people. I am in awe, and I hope to read many, many more of her books. She's written quite a lot, so I have a big archive to work through. So I think it'll be several years yet before I have exhausted all of Stella Gibbons' bibliography and have to feel sad and then start over from the beginning again. So that's the end of my list of best books I read in 2018. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you plan to read more books in 2019, I have a free e-course that can help you do just that. It's got loads of advice on finding books that you enjoy and how to get involved in your local or online book community. Please check that out in the description below if that sounds like fun. Thank you again. You'll see me again soon. Bye!